Welcome back to 23-Minute Reads with me, Mya D. This is kind of like my virtual book club because in these 5-minute or so videos, I share with you my takeaways from my current reading. Right now, that is Black Performance Theory. As a part of my 23 to 23 challenge, I'm reading 23 minutes per day, every day, as an action of self-love, as an investment into myself, and as a way of providing myself with some consistency in an ever-changing world. Hoping that you will join me along in this journey by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and dropping some comments down there in our comment section so that there's an actual dialogue going on. Having in mind that while I have several decades of experience as an educator, as a dancer, and as a curriculum writer, I'm not the know-all be-all for this book. I'm simply providing a space for dialogue. Well, this week I read pages 52 through 87, and here are my 3 takeaways. Let me get my notes. Takeaway number 1 is human phonograph. Tom Wiggins is discussed in the 21st Century Post-Human essay. Here's a quote. Able to reproduce musical passages with mechanical precision and yet property by terms of civil law, he gave off the signs of a phonograph long before its invention. Willa Cather. Similar to DJs creating musical loops, Wiggins was a cyborg, the space where the body and technology can be seen. But his body as an enslaved person was considered a commodity, and by Marxist rationale, commodities do not speak and have no inherent value. His gift, his intelligence was labeled as parroting, the process of repeating without having an understanding of what's being repeated. This was the only way to rationalize why this blind, enslaved subhuman could perfectly present and perform the epitomized art of white society. Demoting his ability to a mechanical reproduction was easier to digest than accepting him as a gifted human. Takeaway number 2 is color blindness and comes from that same essay. Color blindness can be seen as an ineffective diversity, equity, and inclusive strategy as it fails to honor individuality and it fails to get to the root of injustices. This section describes the history and the science behind prosthetics as a method of rehabilitation for male bodies who negatively were affected by industrial accidents from the Civil War or from World War I. Disabled bodies were seen as the fault rather than the environment, treating the symptom, not the root. Not acknowledging that it was the environment that would need to change in order to be more welcoming to these new bodies inhabiting the space. A normative body is established and reinforced, and everything else is considered a failure to rehabilitate, a failure to comply, and treated as such. The author goes on to connect this to the body of the Black family in this quote. The incomplete or failed rehabilitation of people of color whose culture had been pathologized, for example, a missing father instead of a missing arm, and who refuse to be the same and not equal must be read as non-compliant. So rather than answering the question of why is this body missing a part, why is it missing a father, the body is treated as non-compliant and the injustice continues. Because through colorblind eyes, we can see all families are the same and they all should be treated the same, right? Even when the actions are saying something different. Takeaway number 3 is Will Porter. In the Black authored lynching drama section authored by Caretha Mitchell, I was introduced to Will Porter, who in 1911 was shot 100 times by patrons who purchased tickets to shoot at his body that was tied to the Opera House stage. To borrow from a quote later in the book, the brutality continues long after the corpse has deteriorated. There's an African proverb that speaks to how the destruction of a society begins in its home. So when the body of the African American family is metaphorically castrated through shootings, lynchings, and incarcerations, what are the processes for rehabilitation and digging up the root? I struggled with the performative idea of all of this. The fact that Potter's body was tied to a stage and audiences bought tickets to shoot at him. The fact that people purchased tickets for their entire family to witness lynchings. The fact that people watch videos of murders and circulate them through social media. I'm reminded of the poem Strange Fruit and how it honors the absence of the body. Through absence, it honors the body, excuse me. I'm reminded of Primus's notes on the last few moments of the choreography, where she says, gathering the consciousness of mankind, you are gathering up everything to make that last final pull down a gesture that this injustice must never be repeated. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? How are you feeling? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for staying to the end. Thank you for sharing. Stay blessed, spread a good word, and I'll see you next week.